Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back to Horror Analysis with me, Drew. Today, we're in part B of our video on painting in Section E, non-narrative horror. We're going over the earlier amount. It took me 2 times to get this right. So, last time we went back to the 18th century. This time we're going back to the 17th century and before. So, 1700 and previous. Yeah. I actually had to look it up because I didn't know what. I kept getting confused on when the 18th century started. It started on January 1st, 1701. Which is fine, because the first person we have to deal with is 1670s. So, into the 17th century. Got my hot water. It's cooled down enough to be drinkable. Potable. But first, after I made the video for the 18th century to present, I found a 19th century painter that I wanted to push in, because I was watching another video and a painting popped up. I said, that's a fantastic painting. So I'm going to go over him first. I'm sure I've missed many, many other painters and artists of various, many, many different stripes, but I can only find what I can find. But I did want to point him out because this picture is blowing my mind. This is a really bad version of it, but this is by Ilya Repin. Ivan the Terrible and Ivan killing his son. Or Ivan the Terrible killing his son Ivan. The detail picture actually works okay. That's the detail of the two faces. The Tsar killing his son. And the blood and the crazy eyes. It strikes me as very Goya inspired. And since this was done in 1885, it certainly could have been Goya inspired. It's very Goya-esque. Yeah, so that's that's the addendum to the previous video. And now we'll go into the 17th century and the 16th and 15th and etc. etc. I don't think we go further than the 1400s. 1430 is the year of Mantegna's birth, and he's the last one we go over. Besides, like one other picture, which I don't even have an artist for. So let's jump into it. The first one I wanted to go over was Juan de Valdez Leal, Spanish painter. A lot of these guys are more classical. Obviously, we're getting more into the older stuff. But some surprises in there as well. Like Hans Baldung. Juan de Valdez Leal. He has 2 paintings from a hospital, actually. And of course, if you saw this in a hospital with the dead Pope corpse, that would make you feel a lot better. And it's called, well, this one's paired with this one. Also, if you're in a hospital, it's nice to see a skeleton leering over you. That makes you feel good. Makes you feel like you're going to get better. Not going to die. This was, they're twins, twin paintings. This one is Finis Gloria Mundi, and this is in, oops, pushing wrong buttons. And this one is In Actu Oculi, which is a quote from the Bible, along the lines of all the world's glory for this one ends in a blink of an eye. Or finis would be on this side. The glory of the world ends in the blink of an eye. Oculi is eye. Ictu, I guess, would be blink. In is in. Finis is end. Gloria is glory. Mundi is world. I hope that's not too poorly translated. Apparently it's a big biblical quote, but since I'm not up on my biblical quotes, we'll just leave it at that. This Juan de Valdez Leal is a pretty good painter, obviously. It's good stuff, but he has a couple more creepy stuff. Maybe not horrific. It's more... One of them's very... what's the word? They're more religious. Like this one is a beheaded head of... name... Head of Saint Fulgentius. Fulgentius? Fulgentius? And this is the detail from one of his Vanitas. I think last time I kept getting Vanitas and Memento Mori mixed up, which is easy to do because they basically have the same definition. If you read back to back the Vanitas Wikipedia page and then the Memento Mori Wikipedia page, they're identical and they link to each other, and who knows which is which. But this is called Vanitas, or a detail from Vanitas, with the skull on the books, with the flowers. As I was saying last time, it's this Vanitas or Memento Mori is a reminder that you're gonna die. So you'll have a nice little painting with flowers and pretty things, and there's a baby in that one, and all this books and nice things, and then there's a skull, because you're mortal. Guess what? And what's the word for it? It fits in here because when you have these skulls and in these otherwise innocuous things, you get this impression of oh my goodness, I forgot the word for it. Metonymy. The horrific metonymy, where, you know, things seem alright, but then you get this weird thing that makes it horrific. When we went over metonymy, I told the story of the pretty girl who you're walking home and she goes into the swamp where she lives, like she's living. And then more and more weird stuff keeps happening. She doesn't look bad, but she looks normal, but more and more creepy stuff happens. You know, she's the monster because it's metonymy. I like that picture. Funnily enough, what I've noticed on here is it goes sometimes, you know, there's the classical people, and then you get a really extreme person. And then you'll go back to classical, and you get another really extreme person. You would think that the way we're trained to think about history is the further back you go, the more conservative you are. In some cases, that's true. Like religiously conservative, that's true, but it's not more puritanical, not more... it's not true to say that things, the earlier you get, are more puritanical or more less saucy. Because you get back to Caravaggio, which we certainly will get back to, you get blood spurts. You get gore. It's surprising that some of these people weren't burned at the stake, Hans Baldung being one of them. But we'll get to him when we get to him. Before Caravaggio, we're going to go through one of his people that's big influence, largely influenced by Caravaggio, which is Artemisia Gentileschi, and the only female on this list, so also very cool to have. And she has Sort of pro-woman theme on three of her big paintings, which are, um, as I've said before, there's the Judith slaying Holofernes, um, as a theme from a, not the Bible, but it's a apocrypha, Catholic apocrypha. Um, that a woman seduces a general of a bad, a Hebrew woman seduces a general of a bad tribe, conquering tribe or whatever, and cuts off his head. It's Judith cutting off the head of Holofernes, the general. And there's one from Gentileschi, I think that's called Judith and the Maidservant. This is another one of Judith and Maidservant with the head and the sword. And then there's the actual Judith beheading Holofernes, which is, blood. There's blood there. It's not necessarily Caravaggio level of blood, but there's blood definitely dripping down the bed, and the knife is at the throat, or the sword is at the throat, depending on who's doing this. Now, I think it's cool because it's a female painter, and she's doing a painting of a woman chopping off a guy's head. Hopefully other feminists will at least appreciate that one. Okay, yeah. Okay, and after that... Oops, excuse me. Excuse me, let me grab some water. After that, we'll go to Rubens. Rubens... Oh, should I give dates on these people? Okay, I'm giving dates on these people. Juan de Valdez Leal. I don't have dates on him because I didn't get him. Juan de... There we go. 1622 to 1690. So he's the most recent. Artemisia Gentileschi is 1593 to 1656. Peter Paul Rubens is next. Back. And I'm pushing the wrong buttons here. Cool. Rubens is next. This is... He didn't do a lot of horror. He's 1577 to 1640. This is the Massacre of the Innocent, which I think is the... There's a couple of massacres of the innocent in biblical terms, but I think this is the one prior to Jesus, which would make the Romans killing the babies, or Herod's troops killing the babies. And since it's Rubens, he's known for Rubenesque figures, so they're chubby babies. And they're being slammed on the ground. One's got a blue face, there's another blue-bodied one there. There's a guard killing a woman who's trying to obviously protect the children. Parents and whatnot being put to the sword as well. Maybe not what I would consider to be horror, but creepy. That blue-faced baby right in the bottom corner sort of thing. That might pay you a visit in your nightmares. You never know. Oh, there's another Judith with the head of Holofernes by Christophe Allori, who was 1577 to 1621. And then the maidservant, of course, behind her. it's the story is she was beautiful. The guy went and took her as a concubine, so she chopped. Well, I don't know if she chopped off his head because he took her as a concubine, or because she was a patriot to her Israel country thing. Then we go back next to Caravaggio. Caravaggio. What's Caravaggio? We have a real name of Caravaggio, I believe. Michelangelo Merisi or Amigeri de Caravaggio. Now pushing the wrong buttons. He has two. That's a Judith and Holofernes, with a nice blood spurt, sort of Hammer Films blood, stage blood. What was it? The blood of Martin. Martin being the vampire movie from Think, Drew. Come on now. Romero. I didn't have to look it up. That blood always looked to me like melted red crayon. You know, if you melted red crayon, that would be the kind of blood that you'd get. And that's what the blood from the stage blood that they used. There's also the other one, which is Salome with the head of John the Baptist. I didn't get those mixed up, did I? No, I didn't. Which is, of course, the bad version. Heroine, villainess. Pretty much the same act, chopping off a head. But if you chopped off the head of John the Baptist, you're a bad person. You chop off the head of Holofernes, you're a heroine. So Salome is the bad woman who ordered the head of John the Baptist. Alright. Next down the list, we go to Bruegel. Or Bruegel? How do you pronounce Bruegel's name? I'm going to go with Bruegel. Bruegel the Elder, who has some strange things. Some of these guys from here on are getting into the weird, in a Lovecraftian sense. It's just odd. This is Triumph of Death. No, that's not. It's the 7 Deadly Sins or the 7 Vices. This is the same one. It's sort of a reversed. It's not identically reversed, but it's the same sort of thing. There was this is Orpheus in the underworld, with weird little demon things going on, but it's not really detailed. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a really detailed picture. This is Mad Meg, which is essentially a crazy woman and the stuff that she sees. I don't know if there's a story behind Mad Meg. Bruegel Mad Meg. Dulgrit. As a figure of Flemish folklore, that's hard to say, who's the subject of 52 blah 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 blah, who depicts a peasant woman, Mad Meg, who leads an army of women to pillage hell. according to Wikipedia. It's in Antwerp. It's a very weird picture. You see the mouth of hell that's actually a mouth with a nose and eyes above it on the left hand side of the screen. And there's just all this weird stuff going on. Kind of strange. This is also Bruegel. This is Fall of the Angels? Is that? No. What is this? Oh, this is the Triumph of Death. Did I not have Fall of the Rebel Angels on here? Very strange. I must have missed one. Nope, it's not letting me put it up. Probably because it's not a... Okay, well I don't have Fall of the Rebel Angels. Cancel. Oh well. Very odd stuff. So Triumph over Death. The Triumph of Death. There we go. Again, just strange stuff going on. With people dying. Okay, from Bruegel the Elder, you go on to Cranach the Elder. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Who also I just found in the page on Holofernes, Judith and Holofernes. This is a very Renaissance or old-timey, but not biblical time dressed Judith, where the rest of the folks go with a, more well, I guess Caravaggio doesn't so much, but Gentilici does, and Allori goes for a more, I guess, biblical style of dress. Cranach goes for what would be contemporary for him style of dress. Seems odd. Odd a choice, but it's a strange painting. This neck, that floppy neck thing is kind of weird. I'm pointing it out for the gore, to be honest. Decapitated heads, and then you rate other decapitated heads against it. You'd be a horror fan if you did that. Oh, cool. Now we're going back to Hans Baldung. Now, Hans Baldung, I'm going to see if I can pull him up, because his stuff is crazy. One that I don't understand how he wasn't burned at the stake. Hans Brienne. His name was Hans Baldung. They called him Brienne because he used a lot of green. Probably because he was one of three Hanses in the class. He was a student of Albrecht Dürer, who's kind of a big name in art. But he went weird. He did a lot of paintings of strange, weird type things, and then sort of did sexual stuff as well. He was one of the first to introduce sexually explicit stuff in here. He went so far as to say his family were witches. He had witch blood in him or something along those lines. We're talking 1484 to 1545. Not exactly witch burning time, but pretty close. Oh, I missed some of these guys. Cranach the Elder is 1472 to 1553. Bruegel was 1525 to 1569. I think I said Caravaggio, but if I didn't, it was 1571 to 1610. And Allori was 1577 to 1621. I'm pretty sure I said Allori. Anyway, now Hans Baldung, just a strange cat. He was it concerned during the years with the profane theme of the innocence of death and scenes of sorcery and witchcraft. He was responsible for introducing supernatural and erotic themes into German art. Let's see if we can get some paintings of this. Here's one of his Death in the Maiden, which is a theme, of course, that was we've gone over a couple of times. Death comes to all kinds. I'm not sure what this one's called, but apparently it's his as well, and it's some sort of death. This is Walk to Death. This is the 3 stages of man and death. Baby, young man, older man, dead. And 3 stages of women and death. Did I have any? I'm surprised I didn't have some of these other ones. There's a really weird one. Let's see if I can save it real quick. The Witch and the Dragon. Let me see if I can pull that one up. And see if it's any good picture. Yeah, it is. It's not bad. So, I don't understand this one at all. It's apparently a witch and a dragon. But I don't know if the witch is sticking her butt out into the dragon's mouth. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird in just a weird way. Not even... It's just strange. But I don't know. It sort of puzzles me, this guy's biography. Why he survived, or how he survived. A lot of witch burnings didn't happen until a little bit later, during the 30 Years' War, or prior to the 30 Years' War. So he might have just died in 1545. He might have just died before the witch burnings got popular. But that's kind of like, how did he get away with it? Was just my thinking on it. Moving back from Hans, we go to Hieronymus Bosch. When most people think of horrific, weird paintings, they think of Hieronymus Bosch. Actually, that's not that great. What did I have for Hieronymus Bosch? This is Temptation of St. Anthony left, Temptation of St. Anthony right. That's the center. So you get, okay, this is actually getting into the weirder stuff. You get these strange, flayed fish and on the ground sort of thing. This is probably the most famous garden in the Garden of Earthly Delights. Which one's this? This is Judgment, The Last Judgment. Again, very strange stuff. Here's some of the details. This is from Garden, I believe. And this is from Hell. Just odd things. It's not something that hits me in a strange way. Not like Bosch is 1450 to 1516. He's the next step back. It's not one that really hits me as disturbing. It's weird, but it doesn't strike me as frightening. Next one back does. Not now, but when I was 14 and I went to Paris, I went to the Louvre, and I saw really weird stuff in the Louvre. And then I was searching for it for a couple of years. I was like, man, what was that painting that really freaked me out? I thought it was Bosch, because, you think of Bosch, but it wasn't. It was earlier than Bosch, even, which is strange, too. It was by Andrea Mantegna. I could have sworn, and I still sort of swear, that there must have been 6 or 7 of these, but I could only find the one. Well, first off, you can see this is his Saint Sebastian, who was pierced by a crapload of arrows, apparently, or sticks or something. I don't really know the story of Saint Sebastian. But, in the realm of people being pierced by a lot of things in a strange, weird, horrific way, it's worth noting. This is the one that always messed with my brain. This is called Minerva. It's called a couple of things. Pallas expelling the vices from the Garden of Virtue, or Minerva expelling the vices from the Garden of Virtue, or etc. No, there's the central figure is this Pallas or Minerva on the left-hand side, rush and making all these other people rush out of this Garden of Virtue. But what always this messed with my head was this detail here. A amputee essentially being forced to drown in a lake of poo, or a lake of shit. A brown water lake, anyway. It was just very disturbing details on this one. It always hit me wrong, weirdly. I can look at it now being 30-something, but when I was 15, I was like, that's really strange. And it haunted me for quite a while. I could have swore there's more in that theme when I was at the Louvre. I could have sworn there was like 6 or 7, 8, 9. There might be. I don't really know. But for Mantegna is the one that I could find. Mantegna was 1431 to 1506. A strange cat. Actually, I knew some stuff about him. He's a weird guy. He wasn't, not Hans Baldung weird, but Mantegna. Andrea. Italian painter, son-in-law and Bellini. What was the thing? Oh, Isabella d'Este was one of his commissioned work from Mantegna, who was a very famous patroness. What's the word? Patron. I just go with patron. Gender neutral. Actually, one of my friends will be very happy that I mentioned Isabel d'Este. If she watches this, anyway. Yeah, but that painting. He does I guess it didn't pull punches. It wasn't what I'm after in a work of art that's horror, quasi horror. Um, yeah, just very odd stuff. Minimize that. The only thing older than that, I think, was from um, the Japanese Noperobo. And I don't even have an artist on that. The Faceless Ghost. Remember the went over it in Japan. We went over it. Did we go over it in Lafcadio Hearn? Um, Lafcadio Hearn did a story called the Muhida, which was a bad translation because that translates to badger, but he meant Noperobo. Um, Muhia, which is just a faceless ghost, and you see these around. This is from quite a ways back. I'm not sure if it's what the date is on it because I don't know the artist. Yeah, so that's essentially what I was going over. A few things to look out for in horror art. First off, I know I'm missing a lot of people. I apologize, especially for the more recent stuff. I'm sure people will find stuff, and I apologize for not finding it myself. Just I can't find everything. As far as themes go, there's the Temptation of Saint Anthony, the Last Judgment sort of stuff for the really older guys. There's Death and the Maiden, which are pretty much everywhere. There's Judith and Holofernes, which is going to be everywhere as well. And then there's the Memento Mori and Vanitas. Or Vanitas. They're interchangeable. That's going to be in the horror painting. Those are the main themes. And then there's some specific artists that I did go over, and a lot of specific artists which I'm sure I missed, and I apologize. What's coming up next? What is coming up next? Oh, geez, I don't even remember. I think it's music. Horror music? Ooh, that's going to be interesting. It is horror music. I might or might not combine it with horror poetry. I don't think I will. I think I'll keep them separate, just because horror music is going to have a lot to go over, and horror poetry is going to have a lot to go over. Yeah. So, horror painting. As I mentioned a couple videos ago, I don't really think that a lot of these, with the exception of Vanitas or Memento Mori, are non-narrative horror. I think they are illustrations of stories that we know, or stories that the audience at the time knew, like Judith and Holofernes. People knew that story. Salome and John the Baptist, people knew that story. They still do. Slaughter of the Innocents, etc. I don't know how Saint Funta... Oh, what the heck is his name? Saint Fulgentius died, but I'm sure people in the time of Leal did. Of course, the Mad Meg was a story in a Flemish folktale, so people in Bruegel's circle would know it. Of course, the Last Judgment, Christian audience would know that. Temptation of Saint Anthony as well. These are illustrations of stories, which is a step before film of stories. It's narrative horror, even though it's not, There are exceptions. This 3 stages of, what's this? 3 stages of death and man, 3 stages of death and woman, death, etc., or Memento Mori, or even this the glory of the world ends in the blink of an eye. Um, you get a story behind it, even if you make it up yourself. Memento Mori might be the exception, or Vanitas might be the exception of that, because it's just, hey, remember you're going to die. That's literally what Memento Mori means, but Vanitas is the occasionally, as I said, they're interchangeable. What they mean, the paintings are sometimes called Memento Mori or Vanitas. More often Vanitas, but I'm not sure. And that's metonymy. It's not really a full story, but you get maybe a half-formed story, if you can go like that. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say that's not non-narrative horror. But some of these don't count as non-narrative horror. Some of them do, or might. For non-narrative horror coming up, poems, most of them are narrative poems. Music, some are going to be telling a story, some are going to be illustrating a story as well. Some won't. We'll see. We'll go over that next time. Alright, folks. My name's Drew. Thanks for watching Horror Analysis. I'll see you next time. Pin? Ivan the Terrible and Ivan killing his son. Or Ivan the Terrible killing his son Ivan. The detail picture actually works okay. That's the detail of the two faces. The Tsar killing his son, and the blood and the crazy eyes. It strikes me as very Goya inspired. And since this was done in 1885, it certainly could have been Goya inspired. It's very Goya-esque. Yeah. So that's the addendum to the previous video. And now we'll go into the 17th century and the 16th and 15th and etc. etc. I don't think we go further than the 1400s. 1430 is the year of Mantegna's birth, and he. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back to Horror Analysis with me, Drew. Today, we're in part B of our video on painting in Section E, non-narrative horror. We're going over the earlier amount. It took me 2 times to get this right. So, last time we went back to the 18th century. This time we're going back to the 17th century and before. So, 1700 and previous. Yeah. I actually had to look it up because I didn't know what. I kept getting confused on when the 18th century started. It started on January 1st, 1701. Which is fine, because the first person we have to deal with is 1670s. So, into the 17th century. Got my hot water. It's cooled down enough to be drinkable. Potable. But first, after I made the video for the 18th century to present, I found a 19th century painter that I wanted to push in, because I was watching another video and a painting popped up. I was like, that's a fantastic painting. So I'm going to go over him first. I'm sure I've missed many, many other painters and artists of various, many, many different stripes, but I can only find what I can find. But I did want to point him out because this picture is blowing my mind. This is a really bad version of it, but this is by Ilya Repin. That makes you feel good. Makes you feel like you're going to get better. Not going to die. This was they're twins, twin paintings. This one is Finis Gloria Mundi, and this is in. Oops, pushing wrong buttons. And this one is in Actu Oculi, which is a quote from the Bible, along the lines of all the world's glory for this one ends in a blink of an eye. Or Finis would be on this side. The glory of the world ends in the blink of an eye. Oculi is eye. Ictu, I guess, would be blink. In is in. Finis is end. Gloria is glory. Mundi is world. I hope that's not too poorly translated. It's the last one we go over. Besides, like one other picture, which I don't even have an artist for. So let's jump into it. The first one I wanted to go over was Juan de Valdez Leal, Spanish painter. A lot of these guys are more classical. Obviously, we're getting more into the older stuff, but some surprises in there as well. Like Hans Baldung. Juan de Valdez Leal. He has two paintings from a hospital, actually. And of course, if you saw this in a hospital with the dead Pope corpse, that would make you feel a lot better. And it's called, well, this one's paired with this one. Also, if you're in a hospital, it's nice to see a skeleton leering over you.